welcome to today's session. You've got myself, James Delaney, and Sean Armstrong on hand today to talk about the IT channel, market challenges, and how Comscare and VMware can support our partners achieve more. A quick intro, you know me, Sean, but I'm James Delaney. I'm a Solutions Evangelist at Comscare. I've been working in the IT industry 20 plus years now, which is an absolute lifetime, literally. I worked my way all the way up from first line support into a data center architect doing solution architecture, and now I'm a Solutions Evangelist, working predominantly in the VMware space to support our partners and drive forward our strategic vision with VMware. If you want to give a quick intro for yourself.
Sean Armstrong, I'm practice lead for VMware Datacentre Solutions here at Comscare. Kind of a similar backstory to yourself, James. I got into IT straight from school in the early 90s, would you believe? It's all I've ever done since. My IT career started more by accident than anything else, but the minute I got an IT job, a job in IT, it was something that I knew I was going to enjoy, and it was going to form my career from that point forward. I started working in finance and banking, insurance companies mainly as help desk, working my way up right through systems engineering roles, consultancy roles. I got a consultancy position just as the .com bubble burst.
I remember it well from my childhood.
Yeah, which was an interesting time of my career. It's the first and only time I've been made redundant. What it did do is set the scene for us to set up a company of our own. So I've been an IT owner of an IT business in the channel. So I like to think I've seen pretty much every side of the channel business. I've got into VMware probably 2005. I was working in a big large retail company, and I was watching a guy installing a product that I'd never seen before, and kind of looking over his shoulder over a number of days, kind of looking with interest. And he started to tell me about it. And from that point forward, VMware was pretty much all I've ever done since. So I've spent 2006, 2007, early adopters of VMware kind of ESX, solutions. And from that point forward, I've covered pretty much every single product that VMware make. I spent kind of 6-7 years in EUC. I've done cloud.
It's a pretty broad portfolio.
NSX, automation. Today, it's the fastest moving part of IT of my whole career. What you've learned kind of a year ago, it can almost be made redundant.
Yeah,
absolutely. Whereas back in the day, you could kind of get 3 or 4 years out of a product.
3 years seems to be the lifetime of a certification,
absolutely.
Wasn't it, or something along those lines? So, who are Comscare? We're a non-compete entity supporting our channel partners. We've been working in the channel for 20 plus years around VMware technology, providing solutions all the way from break fix, so hardware maintenance, into professional services, and more latterly into managed services through our SMC, which is Service Management Centre, both in the UK and in EMEA, in Bulgaria and Sofia, where we've got 24/7 follow the sun services that include VMware propositions as well to support our partners scale. And that's kind of who we are today and how we support our partners. Anything you'd like to add to that, Sean?
Yeah, I joined Comscare as part of an acquisition of Platform Consultancy in 2015. A year later, we were purchased by Ingram Micro, so we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Ingram Micro now, channel-only business. And the kind of purchase by Ingram Micro has really brought our VMware relationship to the fore. We've got now a global reach where we were very much smaller than that previously. We've got offices out in the METNA region, in the States, in the Baltics. Yep. So we really have truly got a global reach now, whereas before we were mainly UK based, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the investment in our professional services team has been impressive in terms of our commitment to VMware and that partnership, and getting you guys all skilled up and making sure we're aligned to what VMware wants in terms of those go-to-markets, and we're meeting the needs of our partners. I think that's probably the key statement, isn't it, actually, that we're supporting them. We're looking at what they're asking for, and we're making sure we're skilled up in the right areas.
Yeah, and having Ingram Micro as our parent company has really brought us to the fore with VMware. It's given us the gravitas in the market.
Definitely.
To bring that relationship and supercharge it.
So, Sean, working in the channel, why do channel partners decide to work with Comscare?
There's a lot of reasons why. We tend to act as a virtual extension of their own professional services teams, where we can add burst capacity perhaps. We can add managed services or outsourcing capability to a team, or we can just add high-end skills that they don't hold themselves. Our teams are really highly trained and highly skilled, so we can fit into pretty much any situation quite seamlessly.
I think I couldn't agree more. I think the partners that we speak to, they engage with us because they know they're going to get good value. They know that we can actually deliver upon what we said we're going to deliver. We've got good capability in the team, as you very well know. We're credible in the marketplace. We hold multiple MSCs, so Master Service Competencies from VMware, and they're not easy to get, and they're certainly not easy to maintain in terms of getting the guys skilled up and then maintaining those skills. As you know, right, IT changes all the time, and you need to validate that through those MSCs, which then get ratified through VMware. Working in the channel, Sean, we get to see some pretty interesting requests coming from our channel partners. Some that we can certainly satisfy today, and others that are completely bleeding edge and a bit out there.
It's always a balancing act between kind of skilling up for what you believe is going to be a hot topic for the future against the here and now and delivering BAU solutions.
When I was designing data center solutions and working down the warm aisle, if you've ever done that for a long period, I mean, you are cooking, right? So you're very aware of how much heat is created by these data centers. Front and center for me has always been sustainability. I mean, how do we move this along? Because ultimately they're creating a lot of heat. You've got things like Telehouse North 2 in London, which is passively cooled, which is very cool. But London's not the coolest place, obviously, to put your data center. You've got some companies a few years back that were looking at hosting their data centers in cold countries, Iceland, Reykjavik as an example. Yeah. So passively cool it with the cool air that's actually out there.
Underwater data centers?
I was going to say, more recently, you've got another vendor dropping essentially large data centers into the Atlantic and letting the water basically cool them. I think they recently pulled one out to see if it was still functioning. It was working absolutely fine.
Boiling the ocean?
Literally boiling the ocean. I hate that term, but quite literally boiling the ocean. So, I mean, if that scales, scary, right? But the one that I did see, it was quite interesting. It was one of our partners, an MSP. They're using liquid immersion cooling, which uses something called, I want to say, dielectric liquid, which is much more efficient basically at cooling the components than, say, water cooling. I mean, I don't know if you've ever designed any kind of gaming rigs at home. I have many times and spent way too much money doing it. And water cooling is really cool. A bit of risk there, obviously.
High-end
component and water. But yeah, it works really well. But in the data centers, that seems to be getting a bit of attention now, and some partners have already gone down that road. So yeah, that's really cool. And that pins to I think there's some compliance coming down the road as well for sustainability around certainly around Europe anyway, where they're going to have a bit of a green score with a carbon footprint.
It's a really hot topic. We're seeing more requests. In fact, we've had a request just this week come in for one of our managed services providers to give them a green score based on that upcoming compliance.
Yeah, I did see it. Sorry.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. So hot topic, definitely something that's going to be kind of one of those large ticket items coming forward.
So off the back of these kind of large engagements, I guess an interesting project we've been working on in the telco space is where we're seeing a bit of traction in terms of businesses just wanting to outsource that finite project, whether it's the life cycling of an environment or something larger than that, where we'll come in and we will fully own that engagement, all the way from not managing their estate, but upgrading their estate, which is often large, often cross-vendor solutions in there. So there's a lot of interoperability questions, and using our expertise to make sure that goes as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that a lot of the solutions that we deliver are very, very complex, or can be very complex. Yeah. And it's potentially troublesome, problematic for a customer to then take that on at the end of that when we're finished. And kind of manage it, feed it and water it. And they often come back to us to say, can you help? And one of the biggest kind of growing areas of our business is almost doing proactive maintenance and almost the outsourcing of that problematic kind of upgrade process. Software is very much moving to almost like a DevOps model, where instead of having a software release that sits static for maybe a year or two before a next major release comes, it's kind of constantly moving now, and constant upgrades are happening. That release
cadence is shorter and shorter.
And that's problematic for some of the large enterprises that we work with, where they don't move at that speed and their teams aren't geared up to move at that speed. So what they're coming to us to say is, can we make that your problem? Can you handle that upgrade, that constant upgrade process for us? Can you take care of the kind of interoperability challenges, the compliance challenges that bring, and the kind of complexity of multiple products working together? And we've been working with some of the large telco cloud platform providers in this space to put services together that kind of take that headache away from these organizations. I've got huge estates, thousands of VMware servers over kind of 3 levels: dev, kind of user acceptance, and prod. And we've got some services packages available now that we're working with some of these telco providers to manage that whole kind of facet for them. We'll plan all of their upgrades. We'll make sure it's kind of working within the parameters and the guidelines that VMware stipulate. We'll work with their change management teams to talk to the application teams to make sure them applications are kind of down for the time that we need the maintenance, and we'll run that whole process for them. Some of these are multi-month, kind of 6-9 month programs of works to get them from one version of telco cloud to the next, and it's almost then a reoccurring cycle. They're ready for the next one. And we see this as a huge kind of growing market, not just in telco cloud, but across some of these platforms and solutions that we're delivering, that we can kind of formulate managed services offerings to kind of help them.
It's interesting because it's not something we went after, is it?
No,
it's a need that the partners are asking. We've deployed this complex solution for them. They're running the BAU aspect, and now they want us to come back and do health checks to make sure it's still aligned to best practice. They haven't deviated away from the configuration, or just the kind of optimize approach where we go in and actually run the lifecycle aspect. So upgrades, as you say, they're more and more frequent now. So moving on to licensing and the ever-shifting models that are available today. From the IT channel, we're seeing a lot of partners now looking more at consumption-based licensing over the traditional, perpetual-based licensing, where you install it, leave it for 3 years, then go back and think about it again. What are you seeing from our partners in terms of requests to support?
Yeah, I mean, subscription licensing is here. It's not going away. It's the direction of travel for the industry. I think it's fair to say that VMware have been quite late to the party, but they've got a solid offering now. If you remember the VRAM tax,
I do.
that VMware implemented and quickly rolled back.
Yeah, I remember the pushback.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest hour, but and maybe that's some of the skepticism that the subscription-based licensing from VMware is kind of is initially being come about. But if you look at the benefits of subscription-based licensing, there is some obvious benefits to doing it in terms of CapEx versus OpEx spend for very large customers. Mm-hmm. There's kind of global inventories in a single pane. There's all kinds of benefits. There's one-click vCenter upgrades available now. So for very large infrastructures, that takes away another headache. For smaller IT shops without dedicated support, it takes away another headache where they don't need to rely on a partner to do a vCenter upgrade. So there are some benefits. However, it changes the way resellers are going to have to work.
Yeah, definitely.
Perpetual licenses were a great sale for a reseller or a customer account manager.
Sell it, move on, revisit it later.
They sell a 3-year perpetual deal. It's in the bag. They get paid on it. It's a known quantity. That's totally shifted now to kind of driving consumption and maintaining consumption and growing consumption with that customer. So there's going to be a degree of becoming almost a customer services exec or manager by proxy and having to work with that customer a lot more closely to see what they're doing and kind of make sure they build momentum with their products to keep them subscriptions up. That's no bad thing. I think that's all good.
It's not a new model, is it? I think it is the direction of travel. It's pretty commonplace across other cloud providers. So I think actually VMware are really just aligning to what the market's asking for.
They definitely are. And it allows kind of more and more cloud-based services, SaaS-based offerings from VMware to penetrate the market instead of on-premises, allows them to kind of control the narrative on upgrades and feature upgrades a lot more closely and make sure that people are adopting or, try and push adoption of new features and license subscriptions as well. It's kind of a door opener for that as well, I guess.
I think that's right. The feature aspect is that actually you're always up to date. You're always able to take advantage of the latest features. instead of you purchased your license, that's what you're getting. 3 years down the line,
Yeah.
you'll revisit it from a strategic sense and decide, actually, we needed some of those things and they could have helped.
And perpetual licenses aren't going away. I mean, there will be a cut-off point at some point, but you're going to see new features in the cloud-based versions. So, there is definitely advantages to getting on the plus model sooner rather than later, I guess.
So in terms of the vSphere Plus, vSAN Plus, the Plus offerings, and our go-to-markets, obviously we are quite entrenched with our partners in terms of that life cycle engagement. How do you think that's going to affect our go-to-markets and kind of the value add that we provide to our partners?
Comscare aren't a traditional seller of licenses anyway. We have sold licenses in the past, but it's more of a kind of a secondary ask. It's not part of our core business. So that's not really materially going to affect our go-to-market. In terms of our services offerings, it might change it. I mean, there's kind of, we can be quite creative in providing services around how does an enterprise customer go from a purely perpetual purchase to a subscription purchase. How does that affect their costs? What does a perpetual cost over 3 years, written off over 3 years? How does that compare to taking on a subscription? How is that going to be upfronted, the cost? I know there's some incentives from VMware on the per processor CPU model to get people onto this program. But, as a services provider, we can do some analysis of what that environment landscape looks like and how that subscription model is going to affect their finances over the next 3-year period. So watch this space for some services that are going to help our partners and their customers with that.
Yeah, interesting. So working with our channel partners, we're often at the headwinds, or at least feel the headwinds of what they're requesting and what they're seeing from their end customers. As a personal observation, I've seen partners start to request things that are productized and more off the shelf, and they're starting to request things to be purchased from marketplace platforms. Obviously, there's VMware Marketplace, and we've got Ingram Micro's Xvantage, and that seems to be the kind of direction of travel, that they want easy consumption of our packaged services. What are you seeing from our partners from the tech side?
I think it's exactly that. What we're seeing is customers and partners requiring preordained, fixed price, fixed scope package services that they can consume easily. Simplification, that's what they want. They don't want a kind of really long sales cycle where, it's kind of extrapolated out at length. What they want is they want to get a scope of works. They can see exactly what they're buying. They can buy it on a cloud portal and we deliver it.
I guess the key here is that these products and package services meet the needs, or at least the perceived needs of the market. So, they're getting consumed because there is a need, whereas it used to be the approach of you'd go in, you do an envision strategy session to understand what their outcomes are, or desired business outcomes are, and then refine a scope of work to meet that requirement. It seems like we're getting to more of a, not quite a cookie cutter approach, but we're certainly moving towards that.
It's heading that way. I mean, post-pandemic, I think the rush to the cloud has left a lot of companies wondering where they go now. And, different clouds require different tooling.
Yeah.
It's a bit chaotic. And what we're seeing now is kind of strategies aligning, and what companies want is operational consistency. They're looking at kind of single sets of tooling that can work across clouds, and that fits perfectly with VMware's cloud strategy of multi-cloud. And our services are very much kind of put together on that basis to deliver that kind of solution. So we've got a lot of package services to help unpick some of that chaotic cloud strategy and formulate it on a VMware-based strategy that kind of gives them that operational consistency, where workloads are fluid. They can move across clouds easily. They can move back onto premises. They can derive the best value in the best location and move their workloads and applications. So it is becoming more easy to buy them services from a cloud portal without kind of a huge kind of open-ended kind of sales cycle.
So we've got 3 package services which can be consumed on our marketplaces. First one, obviously we've got our NSX V2T migration assessment. It's another assessment service with a follow-on service for design and deployment. Again, that's been driven by market need and what the partners are asking for, and also what the vendor's looking for as well, obviously, to get people off of old unsupported versions of NSXV. Still a lot of partners out there running NSXV. We still see these coming in. I think it's sunsetted, I want to say January last year. So
yeah, some of the most complex environments are kind of deeply entrenched into NSXV. If you think of our service provider partners, they went all in on NSXV rather, and unpicking some of them environments is quite complex, particularly around the service provider and multi-tenancy aspects of the CSP model.
Well, we're talking about east-west security, aren't we? So exactly, just switching that off is no small thing, or migrating it. I think at the beginning of last year, the objections were that there was no feature parity. That's certainly not the case anymore. There's more features in NSXT than there ever were in NSXV now. So I think it's more of at what point do they take the leap and do the migration? But we still see lots and lots of requests coming in from partners from all shapes and sizes, from small businesses running a few nodes to huge enterprises with umpteen data center deployments.
Yeah, it's still a big business. If you look at the data from VMware, there's a heck of a lot of partners still on NSXV, and it's kind of our job to help them move, to simplify that for them and do it for them.
And we've been doing that non-stop for well over a year now. So that product is there to be consumed on Xvantage Marketplace by our partners, or you just come direct to your account manager, obviously. Next one, which is one that's very close to my heart. It's targeted at the MSP space, but can also be consumed by enterprises and often is. It's our cloud service provider accelerator, CSP accelerator for short, which is essentially creating a landing zone, off-the-shelf, fixed price, fixed outcome package that utilizes the VMware CSP, VCPP, lots of acronyms in here, licensing model, to provide a platform, basically a hyperscale cloud-like platform for a business to monetize and provide their services from.
So this solution came from feedback that we done some market research around the cloud provider kind of marketplace, and we were getting a common set of kind of challenges that cloud service providers were having, which related basically to how do we build cloud platforms that we can grow quickly, that can scale quickly, that we can upgrade. How do we get monetized services onto them platforms effectively, and how do we upgrade those platforms?
I think that management aspect was one of the real key points that came back, wasn't it? In terms of, yes, we can get it deployed, but then what? Yeah,
I mean, talking to the cloud service providers, we've kind of seen just about everything, right from basic, vSphere-based deployments. A lot of them are using what was the FlexCore 7.
That's right.
Now 7.7 point bundle gives them access to quite a lot of product there, and yet some of our cloud service providers are kind of using kind of 20-30% of what they're paying for. So we put some services together to kind of take them partners forward, kind of make them get the best value of that licensing. So this offering is really about deploying all of the products that they get in the 7.7 point bundle, FlexCore bundle, and giving them a cloud platform, a private cloud or a hybrid cloud platform that gives them the best kind of building blocks to then put other monetized services onto, that they can get out to market quickly. It gives them an industry standard kind of VMware SDDC cloud provider platform, something that a lot of them have never had. It's built on, the building blocks of vSphere, vSAN, NSXT, and most importantly for me, VMware Cloud Director. Looking back, kind of 7, 8, maybe even longer, Cloud Director, I was installing it at version 1.x, and it was very raw. It kind of disappeared out the marketplace for a long time. It was service provider only. So when it's come back round now and it's at version 10, I think you'll find the changes are absolutely astonishing. It's such a different product now. It's I think it's fair to say the product teams have done a fantastic job of making Cloud Director so extensible and so programmatic. You can plug pretty much any third party product you wish into it now. So our solution is around giving that our CSP partners the right building blocks to go forward from.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's for these entities, whether it's an enterprise servicing line of business or an MSP servicing their customers. It gives them the ability to securely carve up what essentially underneath the hood is just infrastructure, and fully monetize it, whether that's virtual machines, your traditional monolithic VM, or containers, right? It supports everything they could possibly need. So you don't necessarily need your dev guys to be spinning up rogue IT and getting the corporate credit card out. You can actually offer that service through the API. It's published on Swagger. They can consume it like they would any other cloud. So it gives IT an element of control again, if you are an enterprise looking to service your business.
So it solves a lot of business problems and gives them a lot of kind of outcomes, day one outcomes. The life cycle services, a lot of our solutions, even in this CSP, are based on VMware Cloud Foundation. If you think how difficult it was for a CSP partner to upgrade of software-defined data center stack, historically, it was a heck of a challenge. And it was kind of me or you going in there and kind of hand leading them through that process. Cloud Foundation, it's not quite a one-click upgrade as kind of it says on the tin, but it's as near as damn it. You can go from versions, across the board, kind of quite seamlessly with Cloud Foundation. So that's what our kind of go-to is for a lot of these solutions. It's simplifying operations for them.
Yeah, and I guess the third one is more of just the assessment, which is the cloud management assessment. So obviously do health checks, optimization, or just to actually be part of a strategic session.
And I think this is kind of where the real value becomes in, because we can offer that cloud management assessment. We can give them kind of warts and all look into their cloud services platform, what they've got now. And really, we can then project, this is what other customers, this is what other CSPs in your market are doing. Here's the advantage they're getting by deploying all this new technology. And here's what you're already paying for. Here's what you're kind of consuming out of that license. And here's the value you're missing out on. And, that's, I think I'm quite right in saying for most providers of up to a certain size, that's free of charge.
Yeah, for the cloud assessment, we can do free of charge, obviously up to a limit. Can't do 50 data centers around the world with thousands and thousands of hosts. But for sure, we can kind of get that snapshot picture of what they're looking at. It's a point in time one, obviously.
Yeah, and that's just the kind of starting point. So that service is off. It's available now on our marketplace for consumption by partners. Yeah.
So those are the kind of three go-to markets that are important to Comscare this year, and we think they're important to our partners and VMware. By all means, they can get in touch and we can support them with that.
Absolutely.
So just going back to the CSP Accelerator as kind of our number one go-to-market for this year, as a partner and then customer, what do they actually get at the end of this?
Yeah, so this is targeted at both greenfield implementations for new cloud services providers or existing cloud service providers that are looking to re-platform. So our typical, we have a number of iterations of this, but our typical solution starts at a 4-node management cluster, VMware vSAN, vSphere, and a 4-node workload cluster. That's our typical go-to. It'll include all of the components that are required to build that. So full NSX deployment, full network integration with the physical network. And we set up VCD. We've set up VMware Cloud Provider Lifecycle Manager to do VCD lifecycling. So we use it to install VCD in a kind of best practice way. And then we can then use it to lifecycle through versions. We can use it to add certificates, all of those horrible things that were problematic in a cloud services provider environment. So that's all included. We get a 3-node, typically a 3-node VMware vCloud Director instance. Cloud Provider Lifecycle Manager, and we set up 2 tenants. So we set up a public kind of tenant that's going to hold our catalogs. So
this is any applications that MSP or enterprise might want to publish in a repeatable way that they can kind of spin out quickly.
Yeah. And then we'll set up our first dummy tenant that a partner or a provider can use to test drive the solution. So we'll set up a dummy tenant, make sure that all their networking is working. That we can set up some basic organizational networks and some external networks to make sure they can get to the places that they need to get, maybe even VPNs backhaul to their data centers. So that's all included in the kind of base layer. And then we have a whole suite of kind of add-on services that then they can pick a la carte. Take your choice, pay your money.
Yeah, 100%. And it's worth mentioning we've got all of this stood up in our pre-sales demo environment. Yes. So if someone just wants to do a bit of not a try before you buy, but just at least have a look at what they'll get at the end, we can showcase that, test maybe a few scenarios if they want to move to a pilot. But they can kind of see the value, almost, see, touch, feel.
Yeah, we've got
exactly what they're going to get.
Got some canned demonstrations, or we can do a more bespoke if a customer's particularly interested in one facet of the solution. Give us some notice. We can get that set up, and we can take you through a test drive of it in our customer success environment.
Exactly, that's what I should have called it. So, Sean, that's all we've got time for today. And that leaves us to say thanks for joining us on this podcast today. Thanks for supporting.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. And finally, we get out to actually meet each other rather than doing it over Zoom or Teams.
So true. That post-pandemic world, right? So it's worth mentioning that we've got our VMware Hub, which you can get to. It's www.comscare.com/VMware-hub. And that'll take you through to all of our collateral, the links to these kind of webinars and podcasts. So, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.